Hi again, Bracey here. So we're back with vlog number 6, I believe, and where we last left off, we were talking about points of interest, and so I want to further explain where that's going in connection with QPVR. So when it comes to points of interest, I started to study this with a metric that I'm now calling P.O.I.P.M. Which stands for points of interest per minute. I really like that acronym because I have an affinity for the word oi and or the phrase oi or the saying oi, and I love the idea of it being sandwiched in between two bilabial plosives in the center of an acronym. It's funny to me, but the idea of the metric is basically to give you a sense of how often are people seeing things that are interesting to them when they're engaging on a platform. And I think a great example of this is Instagram. When you're going through Instagram, an average user, or if you just take me as an average user, points of interest to me are about 14 per minute. So I'm going through and scrolling through, and there's a picture and there's a video, and maybe I stop and I watch that video for a little while, which has multiple points of interest in the video. And points of interest are things that spike your interest, and there might be a lull and there's another spike of interest. So that happens when you see an image, you first see an image, but then after your brain's kind of processed that image and you think you've kind of extracted the image's value, you're ready for something else, and that's why you scroll on. The same thing can be said about the Facebook platform. You're going through, seeing other people's posts. They're responsible for the points of interest, as well as some good advertisements on both Instagram and Facebook, and this extends to every platform that you're seeing content in. But where it really starts to fall off is, well, in the area that matters, the area of concern for me is virtual reality. So when you're in virtual reality, the issue is you can have points of interest, highly concentrated points of interest, so you're in the experience and you're doing really cool things, but typically to get into that experience, it takes some time. It takes a lot of onloading. You have to understand how the experience works, or you're just sitting in a loading screen. And then the same thing, you want to switch to new content, you got a loading screen. You want to try something new, you got a loading screen. This is a really big issue when it comes to virtual reality, because the thing that's unique about virtual reality is when you go in there, it closes you off from everything else. So if you're used to having an escape when you're waiting for something to load on your computer screen, or there's a commercial on your TV, or you're on your phone and you're doing something and then there's loading and then you can do something else when the Wi-Fi is low, when you're in virtual reality, this stuff doesn't exist. So it's up to the developers and the platform to entertain you or to fill up that space. And right now, no one's doing it. And ultimately, I think it really comes down to the platform, the way that the platform's developed. I think ultimately we rushed to the fidelity the same way that we're kind of doing that already when you're talking about video games and things like that. They look amazing, but they're not worried about loading time so much. Like, it's par for the course. They have a different medium, so when people are playing video games, they've come to expect it. It's part of the experience, and it's just part of the expectation of the experience. Whereas when you're in VR, people aren't treating it like its own medium, and I think to treat it like its own medium within the context of today, you have to be aware of your points of interest per minute. And this is the number one thing we're aiming to solve when we're talking about QPVR, our platform, and creating content for virtual reality. And the way that we did it is very interesting, unique. There's some challenges with it, and it might put us, it might limit, I mean, it's not might, it's going to limit the quality of content, the quality, and when I say the quality, I mean the graphic quality, when it comes to just the overall fidelity of the image or the quality of the image, it's going to be limited by the shaders that we have to use. But ultimately, this is something that can grow with the platform. It might be one step back, but it's going to be 20 steps forward after that. So we'll get into that a little bit more on the next post. But again, if you stuck through that, thanks for watching. I'm Bracey.